It will shatter your reality.
Yeah. Kara, I think I cut you off a minute ago.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that kind of jives with, what we've seen on this podcast. I feel like when we have experiencers on, they're generally, pretty reasonable people. They just want to tell their story. And, when they're not, it's kind of a red flag. It's like,
Exactly.
So, but that's not the norm. So.
I had so when you've gone after probably too aggressive of a term, when you've investigated these psychic detectives, have they ever come after you for liability or slander or something?
Another good question. The answer is no. Partly there are a couple reasons. In one case, Sylvia Brown's dead, so I'm no longer on her shit list. Although I was for a while, and I know that because I was among a team that actually protested her appearances. She was, as you may know, a convicted felon, and I pointed this out to her audience members. She did not appreciate this, and so I and other skeptics in places, including Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I live, Las Vegas, and elsewhere. We would carry around a banner saying, convicted felon Sylvia Brown this way. And she sent out her minions. And she had people, it was like this almost like Scientology level. Yes, exactly. It was like this level of harassment, like, you're being recorded. I'm like, go for it. I'm in a public area.
Right. Yeah. I'm standing here holding a sign for the world to see.
Right.
More exposure is not really going to undo that, right?
Exactly. So it's I don't want, again, my goal isn't to hurt people. I don't want to put people out of business, even unless they're harming people. In some cases they are. I mean, there are psychic. Yeah. I mean, there is harm in these things, and psychic detectives are one example where there's actual demonstrable harm.
That's the other side of my liability question. Right. And you may not know the answer, but when they come out and waste police money and get it wrong, like you were saying with the young boy, is there any liability that can be put towards them?
Typically, no. And the reason is that, number one, typically police don't prosecute. They very, very, very rarely prosecute psychics who give misinformation. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is that it's not worth their while. I mean, and it's not. A police department and a police legal, they don't have time or interest in prosecuting everybody who gives them misinformation. And keep in mind that most psychics are sincere people. There are cons and frauds, but most psychics who give information really believe it. So so you can't prove in court that they intentionally lied. You can't prove malice. All you can prove is that they, like countless other people who chime in on missing persons cases, gave bad information, but giving bad information isn't a crime. So it has to be, you have to prove intent. And so this is why with very rare cases, police don't prosecute people who give misinformation, even if they're psychics. It's not worth their while.
They just know not to listen to them in the future. Andrea pointed out a couple of chapters of your book that she wanted hit, and as I was going through the chapters, I thought these are as good as any because there are some great, totally interesting chapters here in your new book. So the book itself is called Big If True, Big-If True, Adventures in Oddity. So it's a lot of collections of these, but Truthers, is America a sheeple factory? This hits just about everybody. Everybody is curious about this on both sides. My wife is very irritated at the use of the word sheeple because not by you, just in general. Every time she's oh God, there's that again. But I know why you hit this topic, but so I guess tell me, are we a sheeple factory?
So
we are.
well, here's the thing, right? And this is one of the reasons that it's basically, the book is basically a collection of 70 of my columns that I've done for Skeptical Inquirer magazine over the years. I think I've been doing it, God, I don't know, 15, 18 years now. So I have a bunch of them. So I was trying to collect a good representative sampling of some of the investigations I do. And they're not, some of them are in depth, but most of them aren't. They're just sort of, I can only the columns in the magazine can't be more than a couple pages long. So even though I do in-depth investigations, yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. So I mean, I did an entire book on bad clowns or chupacabras, right? So I'm happy to do in-depth stuff, but for the purposes of the magazine, I have to keep it sort of very focused, and so that's really what I did. And the sheeple factory was actually one of the more interesting cases because when people talk about conspiracy theories, oftentimes you get the caricatures, right? You get the tinfoil hatted Alex Jones nutbag stuff, but in fact the truth is that most people across the board believe in some conspiracy theories, or certainly things that don't really have good evidence behind them. And you could break it down. I mean, we could do a whole show on conspiracy theories specifically, but a lot of it is driven by identity politics, as you know. So the people on the left believe a certain set of these, people on the right believe a certain set of these, and so on. And the claim that America is a sheeple factory, and by that I mean the claim that the American government doesn't want its citizens to be educated for nefarious purposes because they're more easily controlled and easily led and these sorts of things like that.
Yeah, depressed people shop.
Right, yeah. And it was fascinating because one of the reasons I chose to investigate that is because that is held across the board. Right. I have friends of mine who are on the left, more on the right, most of them are on the left, but all across the board. And this was one of the few conspiracies, and it is a conspiracy, that everybody on my Facebook feed, left, right, and center, was like, oh yeah, that's true. I'm like, hold on a second. So there's a couple versions of this, and I'll try not to go too deep into it. But basically, the idea is that, again, specifically they're talking about our government, but presumably this applies to any government. The French, the British, Germans, Argentines, I mean, take your pick. The idea is that the government, they want to keep us uneducated because, again, we're more easily swayed to vote and things like that. And it has a superficial plausibility, right? It's like on one level, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can kind of see that sort of, they're trying to keep us down this net. But I said, well, hold on here. So presumably this is not unique to whatever administration, because I saw it being claimed during Obama's administration. I saw it being claimed during Trump's administration. I'm like, well, hold on here. So both the Democrats and the Republicans want to keep everybody uneducated, so they vote a certain way. But how does that work? Did all the elite get together and say, we need to make sure that Americans don't learn anything, because in that way, why would they even do that? Because every 4 years there's going to be another election. So That didn't make sense. And then I said, well, let me take a deeper dive into it. So I said, well, okay, is it really true that Americans are less educated than ever before? And of course, that's patently false. In fact, they're not. I mean, Americans are by far more educated than ever before. I mean, I give statistics in the chapter. If you look at the education level of the average American in 1890, 1910, and 1920, there's more Americans that have college degrees than ever before, advanced degrees. If you're looking at university degrees, more these days, more women than men are getting degrees. So
I assume this is all per capita and not just straight numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so again, I mean, so I was trying to say, well, so if it really is, number one, the premise, again, it has sort of superficial plausibility, but when you get beneath the surface, like, well, this doesn't really make sense. And even if that were the case, right? Let's say that the premise is true, that there are people in the government that throughout administrations and decades, apparently, that want to keep Americans ignorant and uneducated. They failed. It's not working, guys, because I mean, it's demonstrably not working. Now you can claim that, well, okay, fine, people are more educated than ever, but that's the premise, right? So.
Hi, kids. Hi, Kiddo. Kids, let's all sing the Kid song. If you want shoes with lots of pep, get Kids, Kids, Kids. For bounce and zoom in every step, get Kids, Kids, Kids. You'll